You race long enough, you learn who to trust, and who to never turn your back on. Jeff Gordon built a legacy that redefined NASCAR. 4 championships, 93 victories, a career that turned him from an outsider into a legend. But behind the smile and the corporate polish, there were drivers he could not stand. Men who shoved him when he was vulnerable, who disrespected him when cameras weren't watching, who made every lap a war he never forgot. At 83 years old, the silence ends. 5 names, 5 rivalries. And the truth Gordon kept buried for decades. Before we reveal the 5 drivers Jeff Gordon could not stand, we need to understand who this man really is. Because his story is not just about victories, it is about survival in a world that did not want him there. Jeff Gordon was born on August 4, 1971, in Vallejo, California. Our racing was not in his blood the way it was for drivers born in the South. He did not grow up around NASCAR tracks. He grew up in sprint cars, quarter midgets, and open-wheel racing on the West Coast. That alone made him different, and NASCAR does not forgive different easily. When he arrived in 1993, the garage saw a 21-year-old kid with perfect hair, a corporate sponsor, and a smile that looked like it belonged in a boardroom, not a race car. Veterans whispered. Fans booed. They called him an outsider. They said he was too soft for stock car racing. They said he would never last. They were wrong. Gordon partnered with crew chief Ray Evernham and car owner Rick Hendrick. Together, they built something NASCAR had never seen before, a machine built on precision, strategy, and relentless focus. Shot the rainbow-colored number 24 Chevrolet became the most feared car on the circuit, not because it was the fastest, but because it never made mistakes. By 1995, Gordon won his first Cup Series championship at just 24 years old. He became the youngest champion in the modern era. The critics went silent. The boos turned into respect, and the drivers who had laughed at him suddenly realized they had a serious problem. He won again in 1997, then 1998, then 2001. 4 championships in 7 years, 93 career victories, 3 Daytona 500 wins, 5 Brickyard 400 victories at Indianapolis, numbers that put him in the same conversation as Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson. But success like that does not come without enemies. Gordon's rise forced older drivers out of the spotlight, and his corporate approach brought millions of dollars into NASCAR, but it also changed the culture. Tradition gave way to marketing, grit gave way to polish, and not everyone liked it. On the track, Gordon was ruthless. He squeezed competitors into walls. He dove into gaps that should not have existed. He made moves that pushed the limits of what was acceptable. And when someone retaliated, Gordon acted surprised, as if he had done nothing wrong. That combination of aggression and innocence drove certain drivers absolutely insane. Some respected him, some feared him, and a few hated him with a passion that never faded. Gordon's biggest strength was also his biggest weakness. He was calm under pressure. He rarely lost his temper. He smiled through controversy. But that calmness made rivals feel like he did not care, like their anger meant nothing to him. And that disrespect, real or perceived, created feuds that lasted decades. By the time he retired in 2015, Gordon had cemented his place as one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. But the tension never left, the grudges never disappeared, and the names on his private list stayed buried. Until now. At 83 years old, Jeff Gordon has nothing left to protect. No sponsors to please, no championships to chase, no reason to stay silent. The 5 drivers on this list are not just rivals. They are the men who tested his patience, disrespected his legacy, and made him race with an edge sharper than anyone realized. These are the drivers Jeff Gordon hated the most. Number 5. Kyle Busch. When Kyle Busch entered the Cup Series in 2005, he brought talent and arrogance in equal measure. Well, Gordon saw it immediately. The way Busch drove like the track owed him space. The way he talked in interviews as if veterans should step aside for him. It reminded Gordon of the criticism he had faced years earlier. Except Busch had no intention of earning respect quietly. At Richmond, Busch clipped Gordon's fender on corner exit, sending the 24 car skating toward the wall. Gordon saved it, but the message was sent. Busch was not intimidated by the four-time champion. After the race, Gordon's jaw was tight, his answers short. The crew knew that look. Someone had crossed a line. The tension grew at Martinsville when Busch bumped Gordon under caution, a move so blatant the officials warned both teams. Gordon said nothing publicly. But privately, Busch's name went on a list Gordon never forgot. At number 4, Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth was quiet, methodical, and dangerously patient. That patience is what bothered Gordon most. Kenseth never retaliated immediately. He waited, he calculated, and when the moment arrived, he struck without mercy. At Fontana, Kenseth forced Gordon high in traffic, costing him positions Gordon believed he had earned cleanly. The contact was minimal, but the intent was clear. Kenseth was sending a message. Gordon responded by racing him harder at Texas, pinching Kenseth into the outside wall on lap 287. The paint swap was visible. The rivalry was undeniable. But the defining moment came at Martinsville in 2015, Gordon's final season. Kenseth wrecked Joey Logano under yellow in an act of revenge that shocked NASCAR. Gordon watched from the garage. His expression said everything. He respected the boldness, but he hated the recklessness. Kenseth had crossed from competitor to chaos agent, and Gordon wanted no part of drivers who raced with emotion over discipline. Number 3, Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart was fire wrapped in sheet metal. He raced with rage, he spoke with fury, and he made no apologies for either. For a driver like Gordon, who built his career on control and precision, Stewart represented everything wrong with unchecked aggression. Their battles were legendary. At Watkins Glen, Stewart bumped Gordon in the final turn, stealing a victory Gordon thought he had secured. Gordon climbed from his car with a stare cold enough to freeze asphalt. He never forgot that moment. Then came Bristol. Stewart intentionally wrecked Gordon under yellow, spinning the 24 car in front of thousands of screaming fans. Gordon confronted Stewart afterward. The conversation was brief, heated, and settled nothing. Stewart smiled through it all, as if the conflict fueled him. Off the track, Stewart talked trash. He mocked Gordon's style. He called him soft. He treated Gordon's professionalism as weakness. That disrespect went beyond racing. It became personal. And for a man like Jeff Gordon, who valued respect above nearly everything, Tony Stewart earned a permanent place on this list. Number 2, Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace brought a level of physical racing that tested Gordon's patience year after year. Wallace was old school. He believed bumpers were made for bumping. He believed respect was earned through contact, not championships. And he believed Jeff Gordon's polished approach was a threat to everything NASCAR had built. Their rivalry ignited at Bristol, the shortest track on the circuit where tempers run hotter than engines. Wallace drove the two-car like a battering ram, constantly leaning on Gordon's rear bumper through the corners. It was not racing. It was intimidation. Gordon felt every tap, every shove, every message Wallace sent through sheet metal. At Richmond, Wallace moved Gordon out of the groove on the final restart, costing him a top 5 finish Gordon believed he had earned cleanly. Gordon's crew watched him climb from the car. His face showed nothing, but his silence said everything. Wallace had crossed from competitor to problem. The worst moment came at Martinsville in 1998. Wallace door slammed Gordon so hard, coming off turn 2, that the 24 car nearly spun into the inside wall. Gordon saved it, but the damage was done, and the respect between them shattered. After the race, Gordon's words were measured, but the anger underneath was unmistakable. He called Wallace's move unnecessary and reckless. For Gordon, who rarely criticized opponents publicly, that statement carried serious weight. Wallace never apologized. He smiled in interviews. He said Gordon needed to toughen up. He treated the contact as education, as if the young champion needed lessons from a veteran. That arrogance pushed Gordon past frustration into permanent resentment. Rusty Wallace was not just aggressive, he was disrespectful. And Gordon never forgot it. Number 1. Dale Earnhardt. There was only one driver who truly got under Jeff Gordon's skin more than any other. Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator, the Man in Black, 7-time champion, NASCAR royalty, and the single driver who made Gordon's early years in cup racing feel like a fight for survival. Earnhardt saw Gordon as everything wrong with NASCAR's future. Too young, too clean, too corporate. When Gordon arrived in 1993, Earnhardt made his feelings clear without saying a word. He raced Gordon harder than anyone else. He squeezed him in corners. He bumped him under caution. He sent messages through metal that Gordon could not ignore. At Talladega, Earnhardt pushed Gordon's bumper so aggressively in the draft that the 24 car became unstable at 200 miles per hour. Gordon fought to keep control. The crew radioed warnings. Earnhardt kept pushing. It was not just racing, it was a test. Earnhardt wanted to see if Gordon would break. Bristol delivered the defining moment. Earnhardt spun Gordon intentionally on sending the Rainbow Chevy into the wall while Earnhardt drove away untouched. Gordon climbed from the wrecked car and stared at the black number 3 disappearing into turn 1. The look on his face told the story. This was not rivalry. This was personal. Off the track, Earnhardt's comments cut deeper. He called Gordon Wonder Boy, with mockery in his voice. He questioned whether Gordon belonged in stock cars. He treated Gordon's success as luck rather than skill. That disrespect burned Gordon in ways crashes never could. Jeff Gordon's legacy was never built on friendship. It was built on dominance, precision, and the ability to outlast men who wanted him gone. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Tony Stewart, Rusty Wallace, and Dale Earnhardt pushed him harder than any track ever could. They disrespected him, challenged him, and forced him to race with an edge that defined his entire career. At 83 years old, Gordon no longer hides the truth. These 5 drivers were not just rivals. They were the pressure that turned a California kid into a 4-time champion. Subscribe for more untold NASCAR stories.